Morning in Austin still wore a faint layer of mist, with the sun hidden behind slow-moving gray clouds. The hum of traffic rose from the streets below, blending with the whisper of wind rustling through the trees lining the main boulevard. Amid the city's cold indifference, Lisa Bennett stood still in front of the towering glass building, her heart heavy, her fingers gripped a crumpled envelope. Inside, a foreclosure notice on the small home she shared with her mother. Reed Properties. The glittering name in real estate now loomed as the nightmare threatening to dismantle her fragile world. Just 3 weeks ago, she had thought her life, while difficult, was stable. Teaching by day, caring for her ailing mother by night, living in a weathered house filled with memories. But everything crumbled when she discovered the home had been mortgaged by someone from her past. None other than her late father's old friend. Lisa had no money, no family, and no choices left. Wearing the only formal dress she owned, hair tied neatly, she stepped into the towering glass building in downtown Austin, where Julian Reed, the infamously cold and calculated CEO, was waiting. Lisa stepped into the gleaming reception hall, its transparent glass walls casting reflections of both opulence and chill. The immaculately dressed assistant led her to a private elevator, saying nothing except a polite nod. Lisa swallowed hard, her palms slick with sweat, heart pounding against her ribs. When the office doors opened, she saw him. Julian Reed stood with his back to her, gazing out the tall window that overlooked the entire city of Austin. He was tall, broad-shouldered, neatly trimmed brown hair, and a gray suit tailored to perfection. The room exuded minimalist coldness. No family photos, no personal touches. "Miss Bennett." His voice was deep, clear, and devoid of emotion. Lisa sat across from him, uneasy. "I came to speak about the house." "No need to explain," he interrupted, placing a file on the desk. "I've reviewed your case." He froze as she saw her personal information meticulously arranged in the thick folder. Her job as a teacher, income, her mother's medical history, everything in the hands of this man. "You can't repay the debt," he said bluntly, "but I have an offer." Lisa clenched her hands. "What kind of offer?" Julian looked her straight in the eyes. "Marry me for 1 year. After that, your debt will be cleared, and your mother will receive the best medical care." Silence. Only the sound of wind brushing the glass. "This isn't about love," he continued. "I need a legal wife. You need a way out. It's a transaction." Lisa felt the ground vanish beneath her. A loveless marriage. Or lose everything. 3 days after signing the marriage contract, Lisa stood before the towering iron gates of the Reed estate. The mansion sat atop a quiet hill on Austin's west side, surrounded by manicured hedges and tall fences. It was a far cry from the weathered little house she had shared with her mother, where birdsong and wildflowers greeted her each morning. The housekeeper, an older woman named Mrs. Nora, opened the door with a polite but distant smile. "Welcome home, Miss Bennett. Or should I say, Mrs. Reed?" Lisa forced a small smile, nerves churning inside her. She stepped into the house. No, the mansion, where cold marble floors echoed beneath her feet, high ceilings loomed overhead, and abstract paintings adorned the walls. Silence filled the air. No voices, no laughter, just an oppressive perfection. "Mr. Reed will return for dinner," Mrs. Nora said as she led Lisa to her room, a suite larger than her entire former home. The room held a walk-in closet full of new clothes, a stone-tiled bathroom, and windows overlooking a sparkling pool. Lisa sat on the edge of the bed, still gripping the handle of her worn-out bag. She felt like a stranger in this polished, unfamiliar world she had just stepped into. Part of her knew there was no turning back now. On her first night in the mansion, Lisa couldn't sleep. Silence draped over the house like a heavy blanket. Heavy blanket, making every sound echo. Just before midnight, a soft piano melody floated through the hallway. She slipped out of bed, bare feet touching the cool marble, and followed the music, like it was tugging at her soul. It wasn't a recording. Someone was playing live. And gentle, the sound led her to a closed door at the far end of the hall. Her heart thudded. This was the room Julian had told her never to enter. But that melody, it pulled her in. She pressed her ear to the door. A child's voice whispered, "One more song, Aunt May." A woman's reply followed gently. "Just one more, Mira, then it's bedtime." Lisa froze. Mira? A child in this house? She stepped back, bumping into a small console table. A vase toppled and shattered on the floor. The piano stopped. The door swung open. An older woman with kind eyes stared at Lisa. "You are?" the woman asked. "Lisa, I'm Julian's wife." A little girl, around 5, peeked out, big eyes, soft brown, curls. But what stole Lisa's breath was the ice blue gaze, just like Julian's. "Are you my dad's new wife?" the girl asked. Lisa knelt down and smiled gently. "Your name's Mira, isn't it?" The girl nodded. "Do you like marshmallows?" Lisa laughed softly, surprised by the warmth rising in her chest. But when Julian appeared at the end of the hall, eyes blazing, she knew everything had just changed. "You weren't supposed to be there," Julian said, voice low and deliberate, as Lisa stepped into the library where he stood, facing the darkened window. "I didn't mean to eavesdrop, Lisa began, but he raised a hand to stop her. Mira wasn't part of the contract. Lisa clenched her hands. "I didn't know you had a child." A heavy silence settled. At last, Julian exhaled, his voice rough. "Tessa, Mira's mother, died in a car crash 3 years ago. She called me that night. I chose work over going with her. She drove off angry." And he stopped, still staring out the window. "After she died, I hid Mira from the world, the press, the shareholders, the deals. They didn't need to know she existed." Lisa stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "But Mira needs someone. She needs more than a shadow of a father." Julian turned. The ice in his eyes now carried exhaustion. "You don't understand. I lost someone. I won't risk losing anyone else." Lisa looked at him, and for the first time saw cracks in the armor. He was no longer the cold CEO or the man who handed her a contract, but a father drowning in guilt. "You can't keep Mira in a glass cage forever," Lisa said softly. "She deserves the world, and so do you." Julian didn't respond, but as Lisa left the library, she knew something in him had shifted. 3 weeks had passed since Lisa met Mira. The atmosphere in the mansion had shifted, lighter, but filled with unspoken silences. Lisa slowly adapted to the new rhythm. Walks with Mira in the garden, bedtime stories, occasional breakfast with Julian and the way he looked at her now. So different. Until Sienna returned. Lisa had never heard the woman's name before, but the moment she walked into the living room and saw Julian chatting warmly with a tall woman, dark chestnut hair, a curve-hugging dress, and a practiced smile, she knew this was someone from his past. "Lisa," Julian stood up. "This is Sienna Knight. She used to be Frost & Sloane's legal advisor and his ex-girlfriend." Sienna added unfazed. "Nice to meet you." Lisa smiled politely, offering a light handshake. "Depriving," Sienna said, eyes scanning her, "that he married someone like you." Lisa held her calm, but something stirred inside, not because Sienna was beautiful, but because of the way Julian smiled at her. A smile Lisa had never seen directed at herself. Sienna tilted her head, eyes flicking downward. "I'm here with important news. I'm pregnant. It's Julian's child." The word struck Lisa like a blow to the chest. Julian froze. "Sienna, what are you saying?" "I just thought you should know." She shrugged, before continuing. This little contract marriage. Lisa didn't wait to hear more. She turned and walked away, her heart pounding. Upstairs, alone in her room, Lisa stared at her trembling hands. She had no right to be jealous. She was only the temporary wife. But why did it hurt so much? 2 days passed, and Lisa kept her distance. She avoided Julian's eyes, avoided the quiet evenings in the library where they used to sit close, in a silence that once felt comforting. The doubt about Sienna's pregnancy pierced her like a thornbury, like a deep. That evening, Julian entered the living room, holding a stack of papers. "Sienna lied," he said directly. "I just got the report from my private physician. She was never pregnant." Lisa looked up, stunned. But before she could respond, he stepped closer. "You believed her, even for a second." "I just didn't know if I had the right to question it," Lisa whispered. "I'm only the wife in a contract." Julian was silent for a moment, then lowered his voice. "Then let me erase that part." Before Lisa could react, he leaned in and kissed her. Not rushed, not forced. It was a gentle, earnest kiss, filled with everything left unsaid between them. When they parted, Lisa whispered, "So this is real?" "It's real," he replied, resting a hand on her cheek. "I finally see what I want." Since that kiss, no words of love had been exchanged, but everything had changed. Julian was softer. Claire was no longer just a guest in the mansion. She was part of the rhythm of this place, especially with Mira. One afternoon, Mira burst into Lisa's room, clutching a thick book, eyes sparkling with excitement. "Miss Lisa, can you read this to me? Daddy's always too busy." Lisa smiled, pulling the girl onto her lap. "Of course, little princess." They read beneath the soft sunlight filtering through the window. Mira giggled as Lisa changed her voice for each character, her small hand tightly holding Lisa's. "Is Lisa?" Mira looked up, her voice uncertain. "Are you going to stay forever?" Lisa froze. The simplicity of the question tightened something deep in her chest. "I'll try to stay, if you want me to," she whispered, brushing Mira's hair. "I do," Mira nodded firmly. "I like you more than cinnamon rolls." The words made Lisa laugh, really laugh, without holding back. That night, Julian stood silently by the door, listening to Lisa's storytelling, Mira's giggles echoing through the halls. And he knew this house had changed because of a woman he no longer wanted to let go. A sudden downpour struck as Lisa read to Mira in the living room. Julian entered, his hair damp from the rain, but his eyes held something different. Something deeper. "Lisa," he said softly, "come with me." She hesitated but followed. Julian led her to the glass house behind the mansion. Roses drooping under the rain, their scent rich in the air. "I used to think needing someone made me weak," he began, his voice raw. "But losing you would break me. You've changed everything." Lisa stood still, rain trickling down her face. Or were they tears? Julian knelt, pulling a small black velvet box from his pocket. No contract, no conditions, no expiration. Just you, me, and Mira. "Lisa Hayes, will you marry me?" She brought her hand to her lips, overcome. Her heart cracked open after all the restraint. "I thought you didn't believe in love," she whispered. "I don't," he said, "but I believe in you." She laughed through tears, nodding. "Yes, I will." The wedding took place on a quiet autumn afternoon in the small garden behind the mansion, where Lisa and Julian had first dared to acknowledge their feelings. No flashing lights, no press, just a handful of close friends, simple blooms, soft music, and Mira as the flower girl in a white dress and innocent smile. Lisa wore a simple silk gown, her hand in Julian's, their eyes finding each other like it was the first time. Lisa's mother, Iris, now recovered, sat in the front row with misty eyes. Seeing her daughter's peaceful smile, she knew she had made the right choice, to trust and let Lisa walk her own path. After the ceremony, Julian gently took her hand. "Mrs. Iris, I'd love for you to come live with us. Mira would be happier with you around, and Lisa would too." Grasped his hand, her gaze soft. "Thank you, son, for giving her a real home." On a crisp winter morning, Lisa stood by the window, her hand gently resting on her stomach. Sunlight filtered through the mist, casting a soft glow on her peaceful face. Her breath trembled slightly, but her eyes shone with a joy she couldn't hide. Julian entered, carrying 2 cups of hot cocoa. He paused when he saw the strange, glowing smile on her lips. "Is something wrong?" he asked, setting the cups down. Lisa turned, took his hand, and pressed it to her belly. Her eyes glistening, she whispered, "There's a new heartbeat. Ours." He froze, then pulled her into a tight embrace, speechless. The heart he had once locked away now overflowed with love, worry, and hope. When Mira heard the news, she jumped with excitement. "I'm going to be a big sister. I'll teach the baby to read and share all my cookies too." Laughter filled the room. In that moment, Lisa knew she was no longer the lonely girl burdened by survival. She was a wife, a mother, the heart of a family she'd never dared to dream of. That night, after Lisa had fallen asleep, holding Mira close, Julian stepped out alone onto the porch. The sky was filled with stars. No more biting winter. Wind, just a gentle chill and the faint hum of crickets in the quiet garden. He reached into his pocket and pulled out an old sheet of paper, the marriage contract. The cold, calculated words were still there, now just a faded trace of who he once was. That contract had once been his shield, a way to hide emotions, protect Mira, and control a life scarred by loss. Then came Lisa, not loud, not demanding, but steady and sincere. She didn't just help him face himself. She taught him how to love. He thought he was buying a role. Instead, he found a home. The next morning, Julian quietly placed the contract into the fireplace. The flames slowly devoured the paper as if closing a chapter no longer needed. Lisa entered, seeing him standing silently. "Do you regret it?" He shook his head, eyes still on the drifting ashes. "No, I'm just letting go of what no longer matters, to begin the rest of my life with you." One soft golden afternoon, the whole family gathered in the backyard. Mira ran around with the new puppy they'd adopted while Lisa sat on the garden bench, cradling baby Leo, now 6 months old, his bright blue eyes just like his father's. Julian joined her, placing a cup of herbal tea in her hands. He sat beside her, gently wrapping an arm around her shoulders, his gaze resting on the children at play. "Do you think," he asked in a low voice, "we've come a long way?" Lisa tilted her head, smiled at him. "Yes, a long, winding road, but worth every step." Mira came running, kissed her mother's cheek, then climbed onto the bench to hug them both. Leo reached out for attention, and they all laughed together. Once their love had started with a cold contract. Now it lived in every hug, every laugh, and in quiet moments like this. Lisa leaned into Julian's shoulder, her heart full of peace. Their family was complete,